Bread making should be really, really simple and convenient. So I've come up with one dough to rule them all. Well, it's for pizza, focaccia, and bread.
One dough to rule them all.
Okay, so if you've been on the internet, you've seen there are hundreds, if not thousands, of different ways to make breads, pizzas, all the other things that go along with it. There's just too much out there. So which is the right recipe to use? Well, I'm not going to say that this is the perfect recipe for everybody, but this is one I came up with that works really well for us. And here's the great thing about it. I section it off into, usable portions for the two of us. But if you have 4 people in your house, make it for 4. And we keep it in the fridge. And that way, any day, anytime, for about 2 weeks, I can pull out some of this and make a focaccia, or make a pizza, or make a loaf of bread to go with dinner. It's just an awesome thing to be able to do, and one dough recipe does it all. So let me show you. Very, very easy. I'm using a Cambro tub because I really like them, and I'm gonna make one batch of this recipe now, but I'm actually gonna do 3 batches so I can show you the finished product of all 3. But I'm showing you one dough recipe right this minute. Here's what we wanna do. We wanna start with 200 grams or 1.5 cups of flour. I'm using AP flour, King Arthur AP flour. If you want to use bread flour, you certainly can. Okay, flour in. Next, I'm going to add to that 160 grams or about 2/3 of a cup of water. Now this is warm water, okay? I wouldn't say it's hot because if it's too hot, it'll kill your yeast. So you definitely don't want it hot, but warm. Like I just got it out of the tap. Our tap is filtered water. If your water doesn't taste good or tastes like a swimming pool, you probably want to use bottled water for this. We do a whole house filter that takes out the chlorine, so our tap water tastes pretty good. For those of you keeping track, this is an 80% hydration dough using baker's math. Keep that water, you're gonna need it in a little bit. I'm gonna tear that out, and now I'm gonna add the other things that go into this. The first one is olive oil. Now for this, I use 5% olive oil, which means 200 grams of flour, that makes for 10 grams of olive oil. It comes to about 2.5 teaspoons or so. The next is our salt. Now, I've kind of made a compromise. I used to always make my breads with 2% salt, and I make focaccia with 3% salt because it needs to be just that little bit saltier. And I found that the 3% actually works really well for pizza as well. And well, bread's just gonna come along for the ride, but 3% isn't that big of a deal. It's a difference of 4 grams to 6 grams. It's still roughly like half a teaspoon, a little over half a teaspoon. So I'm just gonna put 6 grams of salt in. But you can salt this to taste, more or less. The next is our yeast. Now I still go with the 1 to 2% for yeast. Yeast is so light that it's really hard to measure exactly, so like half a teaspoon should do. And now we mix. And again, all I'm doing is trying to incorporate all of the ingredients together. Notice I didn't do any sifting. I didn't mix up the dries before I put anything in. I didn't do any of that. Really, really simple method here. And if you mix it properly and do the next step, it'll actually come together really easily, and none of that makes a difference at all. The idea here is convenience. We want this to be something that you can make once every 2 weeks or so, make a large batch, like make 5 or 6 times this amount, and then just portion it off, keep it in the fridge. We tried freezing it. Some people asked about that in our other bread video, and freezing worked. It didn't kill the yeast completely, but we didn't get as much of a rise when we had a frozen bread. But I don't feel that freezing it is totally necessary when I can make up a batch of this every 2 weeks or so and have plenty of bread, because this will last about 2 weeks in the fridge. And that's what our dough looks like when it's ready to, sit for about 10 minutes and rest. Okay, so it's been about 10 minutes, and I like to give it 10 minutes. You can give it longer if you really want to, like you can wait an hour in between if you really want. Did I mention that this dough is pretty much ready to proof in half an hour with no kneading? That's a key thing. I don't really like kneading. I don't really like to have to wait a whole day to have my bread either. So you can make this right now and be eating it in 2 hours, or you can let it sit in the fridge for up to like almost 2 weeks. But anyway, here's how you do a stretch and fold. Stretch and fold is just a way to make gluten in the bread, okay? It's kind of like kneading, but it's a lot more convenient and a lot quicker. We actually have a full video on just stretch and fold, link in the description and probably a card up here somewhere. Okay, to do a stretch and fold, really simple. Remember that water I said don't get rid of earlier? Dip your hand in there. Make sure it's nice and coated. Reach in, grab a side, pull up till you feel a little resistance, maybe wave it around a little bit, slap it down on top of itself. Turn 90 degrees, do the same thing. The idea is you're going all the way around and you're layering those gluten strands and giving everything a nice stretch. Just like that. It'll lift out, and that's okay. I'm wetting my hand in between every time on the first one because the dough just gets really sticky. Once you've done that, wait 10 minutes, do it again, wait 10 minutes, do it again. I find 3 stretch and folds over the course of half an hour is really all I need for most of my breads. Okay, so we've done 3 stretch and folds on this. It took all of half an hour from the time we made it to get to this point. And as you can see, it's already starting to rise a bit. It's significantly larger than it was when we first started. That's what we're looking for. At this point, you can stop right now, put this in a sealed container, you know, like a Tupperware or something like that, put it in the fridge. Keep it for up to 2 weeks. Here's the trick. It'll only get better over time. It'll ferment just that little bit more, give a little more sourdough flavor, a little tang, but it's perfectly usable right now too. And that's the great thing about this. Make a big batch, split it up, put it in the fridge. 1/2 hour every 2 weeks, and you can make pizza, focaccia, or bread anytime you want to. Now let me show you how you can use this. If you want to use this right now, you do want to let this prove for about an hour. You want it to rise up fully, okay? And that's true of any bread. When you take it out of the fridge, you want to let it rest for about an hour, and then you can totally just use it as you would. Okay, it's been half an hour, and remember I said 1 hour, so we are only 1 hour into the actual making of this dough, but I feel this has proof enough. It's just fine. Let me show you what it looks like. As you can see, it's nice and big. It's puffed up quite a bit. It's easily doubled in size. We are good to go. So the first thing that I'm gonna make is the bread loaf, and I have a pan here with our non-stick paper on it, and this is the exact same technique that I used to make our Cuban bread. So if you want to see the entire process and learn everything about making that, watch this video. It'll be linked in the description and in a card up here. But I'm just going to do a little fast forward here so you can see the technique really, really quick.
Non più tra I farfalloni amoroso, notte giorno di torno girano, delle belle turbando al riposo, Narcisetto a dolcino d'amor. Delle belle turbando al riposo, Narcisetto a dolcino d'amor.
Okay, that sits for 20 to 30 minutes to proof. And on to focaccia. Now, we just did a focaccia video too, so if you're not sure on the method for that, video is going to be in the description and a card right here. But I'm going to do a fast forward version just so you can see it.
Non più tra I farfalloni amoroso, notte giorno di torno girano, delle belle turbando al riposo, Narcisetto a dolcino d'amor. Delle belle turbando.
And that's it. This rests for about 20 to 30 minutes, and then we'll put the herbs on, dimple it, and bake it. Okay, so focaccia takes the least amount of the rest, and this one's pretty much ready to go, so I'm just gonna do the rest of this and get it ready in the oven.
Non più tra I farfalloni amoroso, notte giorno di torno girano, delle belle.
So, bread's been resting for about a half an hour or so, and there we go. Looks beautiful. And what I want to do is just score it up using my fancy razor blade knife. And let's see, down the middle, down the sides. I'm going to just do like this. I'm really, really good at scoring, as you can see, in the oven. And here comes the focaccia. Now, it needs to be oiled. This is my favorite part.
Non più tra I farfalloni amoroso.
Hear that sizzle, that crackle? I love that.
And now for something completely different.
Non più tra I farfalloni amoroso, notte giorno di torno girano, delle belle turbando al riposo, Narcisetto a dolcino d'amor. Delle belle turbando al riposo, Narcisetto a dolcino d'amor. Non più avrai questi bei panacchini, quel cappello leggero galante, quella chioma, quell'aria brillante, quel vermiglio.
After 30 minutes, there's the bread. Looking really, really good. On to pizza next. Pizza out of the oven. I'm just going to throw some basil on it. I like to do the basil after, that way it just kind of wilts rather than burns. Okay, so all three things are ready. Now let me cut them open and show you what they look like inside. There's the inside of the focaccia. Very spongy, very, very nice. I like that a lot. Now I'll cut the bread. I'm just gonna go straight down the middle. And again, nice open crumb. Looking really good, very soft, very spongy on that. Beautiful. And then the pizza. All right, let me get this piece. Look at that crust, nice and spongy. A little bit of crunch to it. I heard some crunching when I was cutting it. Browned on the bottom. The whole idea behind this is convenience, really super quick and easy. And this dough gets better in time. This is just a couple hours old. You make a 6 or 7 times batch of that, put it in containers, put it in the fridge, up to a week and a half to 2 weeks, good to go. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Have a great day.